Hey you guys, today we're going to talk about why minimalism is so popular right now. My name's Leslie, and about a year and a half ago, my family downsized by 90% so that we could live life on our own terms and travel. And it seems to be that minimalism is a really popular topic right now. It kind of seems trendy right now. So let's talk a little bit about how that came about and why that might be such a popular thing right now. In order to do that, we're going to go back in time a little bit and talk a little bit of history, but it's kind of interesting, so stay with me. So there's this idea you may have heard of before called the 100th monkey effect. The 100th monkey effect is all about how quickly ideas can spread even when it seems like there's nothing actually spreading them. Kind of like the idea pops up here and over here all at the same time. So the story behind this is that there were these scientists that were observing monkeys on this island, and the monkeys learned to wash their sweet potatoes. And then the monkeys that kind of figured this out, they taught their young. So pretty soon, all the monkeys on this island were washing their sweet potatoes. It was like this new behavior that they hadn't done before and that they were doing now. And at a certain point, kind of a critical point, a certain number of monkeys began to do this, suddenly monkeys on other islands were also washing their sweet potatoes where they hadn't been before. So it started in one spot with one who taught others around it, and then suddenly it seemed like the idea just popped up all over the place. So it seemed like there was this connected consciousness between these monkeys that once a certain, like a tipping point had been reached, suddenly it spread without people needing to be taught, without the monkeys needing to be taught the activity. So when I was thinking about this idea, why minimalism has spread so quickly, that's one thing. And we'll get back to the 100th monkey in a minute. But one of the things I looked at was Google Trends. I wanted to see at what points in time minimalism had become something that people were really looking into. And I found 2 points where it really spiked that were kind of interesting. In 2004, there was a spike in the interest in minimalism. And then again, in January 2017, I was actually surprised it was so far away in 2017. And other than that, it was kind of flat. It kind of went up and down a little bit, but not much. And then January 2017, it went up quite a bit. So what happened that made it spike during those times? Now, before we talk about that, we're going to go back even further to the 1800s, to the Industrial Revolution. So during the Industrial Revolution, we started having goods that were being mass produced, and suddenly they were available for cheaper and cheaper prices, more than they ever had been before. So suddenly people were able to buy more things than they ever had been able to before. And that was pretty good. It made a lot of people's lives better. So, and the way that, kind of the way we have with technology right now, things got better and better. So you wanted to keep upgrading because you would have the new improvements. Just like you wouldn't really want to buy a computer from like 2000 or from 1980 today because they wouldn't be able to do all the new things that the new computers can do. So you want the upgraded version. So people would buy more upgraded versions. And so this is kind of the beginning of consumerism, really, the way that we see it today. Now, once people started getting in the habit of buying the upgrades, something happened along the way, and I don't know all the history of this or who started it or anything like that, but at some point, planned obsolescence came into practice, and that was the idea that they would start to design things to break down more easily so that you would have to replace them because they broke down. So then we got in the habit of needing to buy things over and over again because they would break down over time. You know, and you can see that with some things. Like if you have a really old old item, you might be able to fix it and keep it running and it does really well, where if you have a newer item, it might break down within a year and there's just nothing you can do about it and you've got to buy a new one. So that works with some things and not so much with others. But we have some other things coming into play all at the same time. One of those things throughout time, not in the 1800s, is television. When television started becoming a bigger thing, something that everyone had, suddenly advertising changed and they could advertise on TV, and so they could sell their products to us on TV. Now, advertising's been around for a really long time, but the TV advertising was kind of new, and that was a new way to sell things to us. And we have another thing that gets to be really popular, and that's credit cards. So people can buy now and pay later. So these two things together were like creating this super consumerist culture. Consumerism is the theory that progressively greater levels of consumption are good for the consumer. I don't know about all that. It seems like it's good for the people selling the items and not as much for the consumer. Maybe in the beginning, when people didn't own the volume of things that we own today, maybe that was the case. But nowadays, it is not good for the consumer to continue to buy. So progressively over time, things have gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and people have been able to buy more and more and more. And then we've been encouraged to buy more by getting credit cards. So just, you can buy whatever you want. It doesn't matter how much money you actually have. Just buy it now and you can pay for it later. So then we get this thing that comes out called the internet. And the internet has changed so much of how we live and so much of what the world is today. And over time, with the internet, a couple of different things have happened. One of those is that we're able to get stuff directly from places like China. You can literally order something directly from China today and have it shipped to you, and it costs like almost nothing. So stuff has gotten insanely cheap now, like dangerously cheap, I think. And the problem with most of that stuff is that it's garbage. It's cheap. Stuff isn't even being designed to last anymore. So then we have this just progressively larger amount of stuff coming into our lives. I've seen it in my own family and with my own children. Some of the things that my kids had when they were little, I would have dreamed of having when I was little, but it was stuff that was way too expensive that we just couldn't afford it. It's not that we have a ton more money now than I did growing up, but it's that the stuff is that much cheaper that it's more accessible to everyone now than it was before. And that has created kind of a problem, because now we have these houses that are just stuffed to the gills with stuff, because where you couldn't always have anything you wanted before, now it seems like you can have almost anything you want at any price. The difference is going to be the quality of the item and how long it lasts. Now, we're going to go back a little bit to the Google Trends. I said that there was a spike of interest in minimalism in 2004, even though minimalism wasn't a huge buzzword back then. And what happened is in 2003, there were these shows that came out. Clean Sweep, Clean House, Mission Organization. So these shows were going into people's homes, and these homes were like stuffed. They had just massive piles of stuff. Sometimes the people couldn't even walk in their living room. They couldn't even use certain rooms in their house because they were so full of stuff. So what they did is they came into the house, they pulled all the stuff out of the house, they went through it all, got rid of most of it, and then put everything back and made the house look pretty. And I watched those shows. I loved those shows. And in fact, when I was going through times trying to declutter, those were the shows that I watched. Now, I know that minimalism wasn't something that they talked about on those shows, but it was a time when you started getting that idea that maybe having a ton of stuff isn't the best way to go. Maybe it's not bringing me a ton of happiness. So those shows came out in 2003. By 2004, there was a small spike of interest in minimalism. But like I said, those shows didn't talk about minimalism. they did talk about decluttering and getting rid of stuff. So the idea was there, but the word minimalism wasn't quite the buzzword that it is today. Now, fast forward to 2011, and there were 2 books that came out in 2011 that are pretty integral to the minimalism movement. One of those books was Minimalism: Live a Meaningful Life by the Minimalists. And the other book was The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. Now here's the interesting thing. The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up came out in 2011 in Japan, the exact same year as the Minimalism book came out in America. The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up didn't come out in America, wasn't translated into English until 2014. So that, to me, is a little bit of the 100th monkey effect. Suddenly, we've got this same idea popping up on different sides of the globe, and people at the same point in time being interested in that same thing. But in 2011, there wasn't a huge spike in the interest in minimalism. So then we get back to the internet. YouTube, by the way, didn't even start till 2005. So the Clean House and the Clean Sweep shows, those are all pre-YouTube. So 2011, books about minimalism start coming out. Now, there have been books about decluttering and stuff like that, but the thing is minimalism, the idea, reframes the decluttering thing. I had been trying for years to declutter, and that has a focus on what you're going to get rid of, what you're willing to get rid of. Where minimalism changes the focus a little bit. It's a mindset shift. Suddenly you're focusing instead on, what do I really want to keep? What is valuable in my life? What is important for me to have? What am I actually using? Really, minimalism gives you that focus on what is really bringing value to your life versus just trying to get rid of a few things to like make your house a little bit nicer. And just your home, that's like the surface of minimalism. So minimalism gets to a whole lifestyle thing, and it really affects many different areas of your life. So in 2011, these 2 books come out, and we also have at this time internet and social media. And social media makes ideas spread like wildfire. So people start catching on and start to be interested in this. And we have YouTube. And now we are able to see people's lives. So we've got this history where we have created this consumerist culture, and it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and things have gotten cheaper, and also in quality they've gotten cheaper. So now we can have a lot more stuff, and what we found in having a lot more stuff is, hey, guess what? That didn't actually bring me happiness. In fact, it brought me a lot of stress, it brought me a lot of clutter, and it brought me a lot of overwhelm. So now I'm not happy in any area of my life with all this junk. So now we're able to see into people's lives in this different way that we never were before, through social media, through YouTube, through videos, and you can see suddenly the people that are starting to practice minimalism and use it as a tool in their lives are like, guess what, guys? This is pretty awesome. You can get a ton of value out of practicing minimalism. Guess what? If you get rid of a lot of your stuff, suddenly you become a little happier, or at least I did. So the book comes out in 2011, and then more books start to come out. So more people start to practice, and by 2016, there's like a lot of minimalism books starting to come out now. And we start to have YouTube shows where people talk about minimalism and practice minimalism. And when we were trying to really change our life and go the minimalist route, because I realized that when I reframed the decluttering idea and started looking at it from the standpoint of minimalism, I was suddenly able to let go of so much more. I mean, it really changed everything for me. And we even went so far as to decide to downsize by 90%. So that wasn't where I started. Where I started was just trying to make my life a little bit easier. But as I got going, I just got more and more interested in it and realized how much better it was, and that I could actually do some of the things that I had dreamed of and really, really wanted to do if I let go of a bunch of stuff. And so that's what we did. We let go of a bunch of stuff. 90% for a family of 4. And now we live in a 300 square foot RV, and we travel, and we have been across the country a couple times, and we're loving it. But back to what we're talking about now. In 2017, there was a big spike in interest in minimalism. What happened in 2016? The Minimalist documentary came out. And so they made a documentary, the Minimalists made a documentary, put it out in 2016. By 2017, it's on Netflix. And now everybody's able to access this idea more easily and see what it's doing for people. And so now people are interested, and they want to know more, and they want to see if it'll work for them, and they want to try to apply it in their lives. So that is why it's becoming so popular right now, is because of social media, the internet, but also because we know that we went way out of balance with this super consumerist society that we had. And it was good for a while, but then we went from the far side here to the far side there. So what we need to find is a balance somewhere in the middle. We need alignment with our owning of stuff and with our consumerism. And one of the other things that's happened is that we can get things so easily and so cheaply anytime now that you don't have as much of a concern that I'm never going to be able to get this again. Where used to, if you didn't buy something, you probably weren't going to ever find it again if it kind of stopped being sold in the stores. But nowadays we can just go to eBay or Amazon.com or Etsy, and you can find old toys, things that are classic toys that you had when you were a kid. You can buy those now today instead of just having to buy the new stuff. You can buy the new stuff. You can buy stuff that was out a few years ago, or you can buy homemade stuff, which is really awesome. So we have this accessibility to things that we've never had before. It makes you feel like you have less of a need to get things right when it becomes available. You'll be able to get it anytime. You can relax, it's okay. When you need it, you'll be able to find it. And one last thing, with the super consumerist society that we have become, we're starting to see the devastating environmental consequences of this. And it's becoming more apparent to me the more we travel, because we're seeing the trash on the sides of the roads, and it just didn't used to be like that. There didn't used to be that much garbage. And we can also see the videos coming from around the world, and that was stuff we didn't used to have access to. We see these beaches that are covered in plastic and debris, and we think it seems so far away from us. But then as time goes by, we're starting to see the plastic and stuff on our own beaches, and it's hitting home more. So I think that minimalism is an idea whose time has come, and it's really important for us to find alignment within our own lives, and it's important to the environment that we find alignment in this. So I think the focus away from a consumerist society is a beneficial one. And I think there's a lot of people who feel that way, and that is part of the reason that it is becoming so popular right now. Because minimalism is beneficial in my own life personally, but it's also very beneficial to the environment. And not just that, but it's also beneficial to other people, because when we're getting these goods really cheap from China, a lot of times there is someone behind this product that you're receiving, someone who is earning almost no money to make it. We're starting to see documentaries about the factories in China and the conditions that people are living in who are making these goods. And now we're starting to see that it's not just a personal effect, it's not just an environmental effect, but there's also a social effect to this consumerist society. So the shift away from it is really important. I don't think that this is just a trendy thing right now. I think that we really are trying to find that alignment and balance right now. And it's really important that we do that. Not just for us, but for people all around the world and for the world itself. So, now that we know all this, we can't unknow this. And now it's time for us to do better. We have to start where we are here and start to do better now. So that is why minimalism is becoming so popular right now. That is why I think everyone should, to some degree, practice minimalism. Like I've said before, though, I'm not going to tell you what to do, and nobody can tell you what to do, and you have to make your own decisions. But to me, minimalism is a really important change that is happening with a lot of people around the globe. So, those are my thoughts on that. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know why you think minimalism is so popular right now. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think about the environmental consequences of consumerism? What do you think about the social consequences of consumerism? I'd love to hear from you and keep this conversation going. So if you found value in this video, please let me know by clicking the like button below. And if you would like to help this idea spread, please share it with your friends and subscribe for more videos like this. I'll talk to you later. See ya.